It is 2023, and the Westerners on Twitter are still economically illiterate. The fact that this article is trending is absolutely bewildering to me. I would ask, do these people not have an education? But the reality is that that is the problem. They do have an education. But they don't learn useful things. They do not learn how to make your taxes, how to negotiate a salary. They learn how to whine and complain that society is systemically oppressive and is out there in order to get the little person. And in this case, the little person happens to be Bella Ramsey, which apparently is making $70,000 in The Last of Us, despite being the protagonist in the series, while Pedro Pascal is making $600,000. It is very bewildering that I need to care about a person making 70,000, right? And feel that the person is oppressed. Like, anyone making $70,000 is successful. But no, like, because there is someone else making far more, then clearly that person is oppressed. Let's talk a little bit about some misconceptions. The first misconception that I see when it comes to salaries are from different professions. I know that this doesn't apply here, but I want to mention it nevertheless. Maybe I managed to educate some people. Like, maybe someone hate watches this video and they're like, oh, I see. So the first one, when negotiating wages, because I see on the BBC and on The Guardian, it was like, why does a person at the BBC or a football player, why do they earn more than a doctor? And the first one has to do with market demand. Right? So, like, how many people does a football player bring? Like, how much revenue does he create? Now, if you manage to create wealth, obviously a percentage of that is going to get into your pocket. Unfortunately, despite the fact that a doctor is saving lives, he's not generating the same revenue that a football player, which gets millions of people to watch those commercials, is generating. So that is like one of the reasons. The second reason is market availability. Like, how many people are able to play football at a very competitive level? And the answer is not many. Believe it or not, like, most people can play football, but at a competitive level, and to live that lifestyle where you're constantly training, where you're constantly under stress, very few people can. Now, how many people can be a doctor? It's still few people, but it's a lot more than people who can be football players. And because of that, doctors are paid less than Messi or Ronaldo or Ronaldinho or whomever you want to pick. So that is like a very important factor, which cannot be neglected. That's why the janitor earns less than the doctor, for the same reason. Because, like, most people can be janitors. Very few people can be doctors. Even fewer people can be football players. Now, let's talk about this, because I can't believe that this is bewildering people. Like, how uneducated and dumb must you be? First of all, it's experience and training. Like, just because they're both part of the team and just because they're both stars doesn't necessarily mean that they have the same experience. Now, I'm not on set, and I genuinely, like, do not know. But are you? Like, do you know how easy it is for Ramsey to perform? Like, how often that she messes her lines, or how many times does it take for a scene to get right? Like, I don't know, but usually speaking, the more time a person spends in the industry, the more likely they are to get those ropes and to understand how to act better. So it is quite possible that a novice, a person that's new in any industry, not just acting, is not going to be as professional, is not going to be as knowledgeable as someone that has decades of acting. So that does factor in when people are hiring someone and they're hiring a new person. Even if that new person happens to be a prodigy and they happen to know everything, it is normal, actually, that the people who make the finances for a show, they account for statistics. They do not account for the outlier. It's like, yes, but like, what if we get the golden child prodigy? No, they're going to be like, this is a role for a younger person, and they're going to be paid less. This is a role for a person with stardom that has decades in the industry. They're going to be paid more. It's simply how it goes. So that is like one. The other is negotiating power. Usually actors do not do their negotiating because it's like, well, women, when it comes to acting, They have managers and people that negotiate on their behalf. But I'm pretty sure that Pedro Pascal is able to negotiate better simply because there's probably other shows that want him in. So when you're fighting for his time, and he's got like a series of shows lined up, because I mean, the man was in The Mandalorian, he was in Game of Thrones, I know that she was in Game of Thrones as well, but her character wasn't as popular as Pedro, and I did check, by the way, despite like subjective opinions, like no, Pedro was far more popular, and he was in The Mandalorian, as I mentioned before. Because of that, there's a lot of shows that are interested in having him, so if you want his time, if you want him to play in your show, well, it costs $600,000, sorry. Costs more than $500,000 to have him in. So this also plays an important role. The difficulty of the scenes that they're in. I haven't counted the lines. I haven't looked at it. But the action scenes do matter. And take into account that, you know, he's not a child. Like, he is not a young person. He's not an old person either. But if you're going to ask him to perform intense activities and put strains on his health, yeah, he's going to ask for more money. I mean, it makes sense. But at the end of the day, it is the negotiation skills. Now, I'm telling you this as a person who's making a video game. If I have an actor coming to me, and let's say he's the best actor in the world, but he's willing to work for $50 per day, why would I pay him more? Like, it makes absolutely no sense because I have a budget, okay? Now, when you look at this individual case, it sounds like I'm being greedy, like I'm being evil. But when you look at it from the grand perspective, and you're like, okay, but like you also need an editor, you also need a coder, you also need an artist, you also... So now you have like a budget, and you have to spread it around. Now, if I pay one person less, I'm paying other people more. I can afford to get other things that I normally wouldn't be able to get. So while you look at the individual case and maybe people think, well, if the business is profitable, people are going to get paid more. No, it's not like that. If a business is profitable, they have more budget. If they have more budget, they can either expand. So in my case, like, for example, I can create a sequel, a spin-off in the future, so I hire more people. I can add new features in the game, so I hire new people. Or the money just goes to different talent. For example, oh, well, now I have more money. I can get a better artist. Even though the guy that negotiated with me happens to be the editor, and the editor made a bad deal for himself by negotiating less, the extra money that I have now can go for me to hire a better artist. That's how it works. But like, people for some reason do not understand business because they don't have businesses, they don't operate them, they don't learn about them in school. And then they're absolutely bewildered when they see this and like, what, they think sexism? It's absolutely ridiculous. There's many factors, but again, you know, it's all about negotiation at the end of the day when it's in the same profession. Like, this is the most important part. And also experience. Because they're going to say, it's like, okay, but like, what exactly do you have for us? Well, I've been in Game of Thrones, alright, that's interesting. Like, what else? Because if she hadn't been in Game of Thrones, I think she would have gotten less than $70,000. But let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.